Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All right, a lot happening these days on the Vancouver sports scene. Mentioned the Lions opening up in Calgary, the Whitecaps winning the Canadian title. UFC 289 on the weekend at Rogers Arena. George St. Pierre in the studio tomorrow. All of our guests today, including John Shannon, standing by, brought to you by our friends with the Vancouver Giants. Giants would like to thank their fans for their support this season at the LEC and can't wait to welcome them back for 2023-2024. Get your season tickets for next year now at vancouvergiants.com/season tickets. Miami, Sunrise, Florida tonight, Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Vegas leading the Panthers 2-0. John Shannon joining us now, NHL Analyst. How are you, sir?
I'm great, boys. How are you?
Good. Can you envision the Panthers getting back into this series?
No, I can't. In so many ways, it's reminiscent of 1996 when Doug McLean's Panthers lost 2 games badly in Denver, and then Colorado came to actually the old Miami Arena, and the 4th game was triple overtime with Uwe Krupp scoring, but it was a 4-game sweep. I just, I heard you guys talking about Vegas. Vegas is just, they can do everything better right now. And their goaltending is good enough that it will get them through.
Is Adin Hill the best Canadian goaltender right now? It's not a long list, John, to be honest. I know.
Well, he's certainly the best one playing right now.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's we went through the cycle and we've dropped the ball on this one when you consider who are the starting goaltenders, even for the 7 Canadian teams. Yeah. There aren't many Canadian players in that position right now, and if we ever had an Olympic team, who would be your starting goalie for the Olympic team?
Yeah, we asked that question on this show earlier this week, but Carter Hart was supposed to be the guy, and now there's talk of him moving from the Flyers maybe to Edmonton. Devin Levi's a possible. Marc-Andre Fleury Bennington with his temper. Do you want him in a tournament like that? Why do you think that is, John? What's happened with the goaltending position in this country?
Well, first of all, I and this is my own personal opinion, we have not done a good job in development because we've made goaltending a business. If you look at what the Russians have done over the years, what the Finns and Swedes have done over the years, they have made goaltending development a part of their programs so that it didn't cost you extra money to become a goalie. And they took, and what's happened at every level in our country is that, and God bless them, they're entrepreneurial, but goaltenders became goaltender coaches and said, I can make a living coaching other goaltenders. And so it's become even that more expensive beyond the equipment. And I really think that's a big part of why goaltending has not become near the factor in our country as it is for, and we've seen the cycle, right? It was the Swedes first, then the Finns, now the Russians. Maybe Canadians will come back next time around. And, it's been a long time since Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur, right?
Yeah. You bring up Patrick Waugh. He just won the Memorial Cup with the Quebec Remparts. You see him moving up to the NHL as a coach, John? Is he going to get a job here this summer?
Well, we know he's getting interviews, Rick. Yep. And so there really has to be a comfort for a team to know that Patrick's not going to try to take over, that he's not going to try to be as brash as he was as a player, and he was the first time he was a coach in the National Hockey League. But I suspect with his success now in Quebec with the Rempart that somebody has to take a look at him. Since he was with the Avalanche, the game has changed a great deal. Yep. And the question becomes has Patrick Waugh changed at the same speed that the game of the National Hockey League has changed as well?
We haven't asked you since the announcement. Mike Babcock looks like the new coach in Columbus. John, your thoughts on Columbus taking a shot on Mike?
Well, first of all, I must admit I'm a little disappointed. I'm not sure that Mike Babcock's the right coach to deal with a young team. They're going to have, I think, 10 players under the age of 23 or 24 on that roster. Can Mike evolve? Mike's going to have to address some of the issues that he had with Johan Franzen, and to a lesser extent with Mitch Marner. But I will say is that the Blue Jackets really did their due diligence. They asked a lot of people, and there were a lot of people that were pro Mike and a lot of people that were anti Mike. And then in the end, Jarmo Kekalainen said, "You know what? This is the type of structure we need for our team." Let's remember, last summer around this time, Pete DeBoer was looking for work. Bruce Cassidy was looking for work. Rick Bowness was looking for work. There were two other veteran coaches looking for work. Paul Maurice was one of those. So two of those guys are in the Stanley Cup Final, and this is a copycat league. Go and find a veteran coach who has been through it, and perhaps you can get a bit of a bump. And the 5 teams that hired those coaches got bumps this year, and there's no reason to think that Mike Babcock can't, because he's still a good coach. It's how he communicates with players is going to be the issue, and hopefully that the Blue Jackets have addressed that with him and said, you have to be more open. This is 2023, and it's not 2003.
Yeah, look at the two coaches behind the bench with Vegas and Florida in the Stanley Cup Final in their first year, veteran bench bosses. DeBrincat in Ottawa, Dubois in Winnipeg. We know what happened with Matthew Tkachuk, players demanding to leave their teams. Now, in the case of all 3 of those players, all 3 teams, Canadian teams, how tough do you see it in the future? I mean, there's taxes, there's the attention they receive in Canadian cities versus American cities. How tough is it going to be for Canadian teams? Keeping in mind that Elias Pettersson here in Vancouver, his contract is up soon. Canadian teams keeping their stars.
Well, it's tough if you're not winning.
Yeah.
And in the end, that becomes that's the key message. You mentioned those 3 guys. Dubois wasn't drafted by Winnipeg. They traded for him. DeBrincat wasn't drafted by Ottawa. They traded for him. I think that if you put people in the proper position and in the right environment, I mean, there's no special elixir that says American teams treat NHL players better than Canadian teams. But it's a bigger fishbowl, and it's tougher on you, and you hopefully have the right psyche to deal with the Canadian market. I would just hope that this is a bit of a cycle, and that if you can put a winning product on the ice, you're going to get players wanting to re-sign it. I mean, I think Austin Matthews is re-signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, so there's proof that some guys do want to stay and play in this country.
I get the idea that Austin Matthews likes the attention. Have I got that right, John? Just from the outside looking in, he's a personality that doesn't mind that sort of thing.
I think he's learned to like it. Mm-hmm. And when you see now, I don't know how many of the commercials you see nationally,
yes.
But he's now become a poster child for endorsements. And he's taking advantage of it, and I think that he's invested in a city that has a huge hockey culture, and I think that's the one thing. Once you buy into it, you can thrive in it, and I think that Matthews now on and off the ice is thriving in it.
Yeah, and say what you want about the Leafs, they have been winning lately, relatively speaking.
Relatively.
Yeah, John, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next week. Always good.
Cheers, boys. Let's go Lions.
Yeah. Tonight.
Look at that. Tonight, 6:00.
Thanks, John.